Today we are going to discuss industrial safety and occupational health. This topic has been given to me by the Institution of Engineers, Sri Lanka. So I would like to thank all staff of IESL for arranging this lecture at this time. I am Dr. Engineer Udeni Wickramasinghe. I am working as the chairman of the Tertiary and Vocational Education Commission. I was graduated from the Faculty of Engineering, University of Peradeniya in 1978 and worked at various places. And at the moment, I am working as the Tertiary and Vocational Education Chairman. This organization comes under the Ministry of Education. Introduction. Legislation to ensure safety and health of workers in Sri Lanka was first introduced in 1942 with the enactment of the Factories Ordinance, number 45. That was the first legal act concerning the industrial safety and occupational health. And this ordinance was twice revised by the Factories Amendment Act number 54 of 1961 and Factories Amendment Law number 12 of 1976 at the beginning. And later it was amended again. So the details I will give at the end of the lecture. This lecture covers some important aspects of Factories Ordinance. It should be read in conjunction with Factories Ordinance and the related regulations. There are so many regulations issued from time to time covering various aspects. So the regulations details are given at the end of the lecture. Scope. As the title suggests, this law given coverage only to factory workers. Workers in other establishments such as shops, offices, etc. are excluded. For shops and offices, there's another law called Shop and Office Employees Act. This manifests as an injustice to non-factory workers since safety and health is as vital to them. This injustice has been rectified in many other countries by extending the coverage to all employees, except perhaps to domestic servants in private employment. The law applies to factories belonging to private, public, and corporation sectors. In the Factories Ordinance, the term factory is defined. The Factories Ordinance defines the term factory differently to the common man's concept of a factory. In terms of the definitions, the following conditions have to be fulfilled for an establishment to be legally considered as a factory. There are so many conditions to be satisfied when we are considering a factory. Number one, it should be situated in a premises. Now, first condition. Then number two, persons or one person, at least one person should be employed in that particular premises. And they use manual labor, basically. Number four, for making of an article or part of an article or altering, repairing, ornamenting, finishing, cleaning, or washing, or breaking up or demolition, or adapting for sale of any item. So in that case, if we consider a garage, dismantle of a motor vehicle engine, so dismantling of work is done, and it is for sale of item by item. So that is the one condition. Number five, work should be carried out by way of trade or for purpose of gain. So all these activities should be conducted for trade purposes, in other words, for a purpose of gain. Then number 6, the employer should have the right of access to and or control of the premises. The owner of the place, in charge officer, should have the right of access to and or control of the premises. So that is the next condition. So these conditions have to be satisfied if we consider that particular place as a factory. But in addition to the above, the following are some of the premises which are deemed to be factories under the law, although they do not conform to above definitions. There are some other places we can consider those places are also factories. Number 1, any yard or dry dock like a dockyard, in which ships or vessels are constructed, reconstructed, repaired or refitted, finished or broken up. Number 2, any laundry carried out as an ancillary to another business or public institution. So in this situation, the laundry can be considered as a factory. C, any premises where making or mending of nets is carried out incidental to the fishing industry. There are certain places you can see that they, in the seaside area, people, they make fishing nets. So these places can be called as factories. Number 4, any premises used for storage of gas in a gas holder having a capacity of not less than 5,000 cubic feet. Then finally, certain building and other construction works. So all construction sites are considered as factories under this condition according to the Factories Ordinance law. Purpose of the law. The purpose of the law is to provide, number 1, safety, number 2, health and welfare, 3, welfare to persons employed in premises to which the law applies. Safety means the provision of an accident-free working environment. That is the purpose of the law. Health means the prevention among workers of disability and disease arising out of environmental factors, processes and materials used. Finally, welfare refers to the provision of minimum facilities, such as toilets, drinking water, washing facilities, and meal room to workers. Now we will consider the important safety requirements in a particular factory. Guarding of factory machinery occupies an important place among safety requirements. These 3 sections of the ordinance are devoted for this purpose. There are 3 sections in the Factories Ordinance, section 17, section 18 and 19. So when we look at the section, it is clearly, you can understand. It is required that all moving parts of the prime mover, the source that provides the prime mover, so provides a movement. You all engineers, you know what is prime mover. Should be securely fenced, that is securely guarded. That is the first condition in under the important safety requirement. Then section 18. Section 18, it is required that all parts of transmission machinery, such as belts, shafts, chains, tooth wheels, etc., should be securely fenced. So from the prime mover, you can see the power is transmitted to the other machineries. So in the transmission machinery, all parts, because all are moving parts. So these moving parts has to be securely fenced. Section 18 covers all these activities. Then Section 19, it is required that all dangerous parts of other machinery should be securely fenced so as to be safe to all persons employed or working in the factory premises. All moving and dangerous parts of machinery should be securely fenced so as to be safe to all persons employed. There, the term dangerous part has not been defined in the factories ordinance. And the only guidance in this regard, regarding this dangerous part, appears in the case law, which interprets the dangerous part as, there in the bold letters, I have mentioned that one, a part of a machine is said to be dangerous if it is reasonably foreseeable cause of injury to any person. So if we see that particular part is can be injury, then it can be considered as a dangerous part. Acting in a manner reasonably expected of a human being to act in circumstances that may reasonably expected to occur. So that is the definition in the case law about this dangerous part. However, if a dangerous part of any machine cannot, by reason of the nature of the operation, be secured by means of a fixed guard. So, by nature of the situation, we can't fix a guard permanently. So, in that case, fixed guard, the requirement of fencing is deemed to have been complied with if a device is provided with which automatically prevents the operator coming into the contact with the part. So if we can't fix a permanent guard, then we have to make some arrangements to prevent operator coming into contact with that particular part. So that is given in the ordinance. Then regarding women, a woman or young person between 14 and 18 should not be permitted to clean any machine while it is in motion. Then we will consider the lifting equipment. In factories, you can see hoists, lifts, chains, ropes, and lifting tackles are used at various places. Lifting equipment should be periodically examined by a competent person. So these items, lifting equipment, has to be periodically examined by a competent person. Hoists and lifts should be thoroughly examined once in every 12 months. Whereas chains, ropes, and other lifting tackle should be so examined once in 6 months. So in this case, what is this competent person? As engineers, you all can get a certificate as a competent person from the Department of Labor Factories Division. There, when you get the experience in the field, you can apply to the Department of Labor Factories Division to be considered as a competent person. So then they will call an interview. The chief factory inspecting engineer is conducting an interview, and you can appear for the interview and get the certificate. Then you will become the competent person and they will issue the certificate. Then you all can visit factories for this as a competent person to test these items. Every hoist or lift shall be of good mechanical construction, sound material, and adequate strength. Safety weight has to be indicated. It's very essential thing that the maximum weight that can carry has to be indicated in the hoist. If it is to be used to carry people, safe entry, for example, a lift, safe entrance, exit method shall be available. So safe way of entrance and safe way of exit method has to be provided in hoists and lifts. Safety locking mechanism for doors should be installed once people get into the lift or the hoist equipment. Some sort of safety mechanism when it is going up and going down. So the safety mechanism should be very important. So in the section 27, it covers Factories Ordinance. Section 7, it covers about this hoist. Then chain, rope, lifting tackle. No chain or lifting tackle shall be used unless it is of good construction, sound material, adequate strength, as I explained in the earlier one, hoist. No chain, rope, or lifting tackle shall be used for any load exceeding the safe working load. So you can't exceed the safe working load, and safe working load has to be indicated in the item. Should be checked every 6 months by a competent person, as I explained to you earlier. Every 6 months, these chains, ropes, lifting tackles has to be checked. It is coming under section 28 of the Factories Ordinance. Pressure vessels. Safe pressure has to be indicated in the pressure vessel. Very important thing. Then safety valve should be installed in the vessel. The maximum value for safety. Pressure gauge has to be fitted to the pressure vessel. Testing hole to be provided to inspect the inside of the vessel for cleaning. So there should be some hole provided in the pressure vessel for cleaning purposes. Then this pressure vessels has to be tested during the operation from time to time. So for steel or non-ferrous pressure vessels, test pressure P is defined as P equals 1.5 times maximum allowable working pressure. So 1.5 times of the maximum allowable working pressure. Then for cast iron pressure vessels, when the maximum allowable working pressure is less than 1 kilogram per centimeter squared, the pressure to be tested as 2 kilogram per centimeter squared. This hydraulic test is provided for this testing of pressure vessels. It is a detailed pressure test, hydraulic pressure test. In case of maximum allowable working pressure is greater than 1 kilogram per centimeter squared, the testing pressure should be 2 times that particular value, maximum allowable working pressure. Then we will come to the boilers, air receivers, and other pressure vessels. These vessels should be examined periodically by an authorized person, as I explained you earlier, in accordance with the following time schedule. Boilers once in every 12 months, gas receivers once in every 12 months, air receivers once in 24 months, steam receivers once in 24 months. These vessels should have pressure gauges, safety valves, draining devices, etc. attached to them. Then you can see the cross section of a boiler. So fire tube boiler. So you can see these diagrams in any textbooks, and if it's not, some certain things are not clear, but anyway, it's a basic diagram of a fire tube boiler. Here you can see the blow down valve, then graters, ash pits to clear the ashes in the fire chamber, then the water supply tube to the boiler, then feed check valve, then manhole for inspection work, then pressure gauges, safety valves, and chimney for the exhaust of the flue, fire tube. This gives a brief introduction about. You can see these things in any of these boiler books. You can see the fire tube and water tube boilers. There are two types, fire tube and water tube boilers. You can see this type of diagram in any of these things. Okay, then shall we go to the next slide? If a boiler is transported or shifted to another place, it should be tested and certified again. In certain cases, the boilers has to be transported from one place to another working site, or then they have to be tested again by the competent person and give a certificate. After major repairs, tested and certified and on completion of competent person. Steam boiler attendance certificate of competence. So when you are operating a boiler in a factory, there should be a competent person to carry out operations. So under the Factories Ordinance 1906, Factories Regulations issued in 1965 under the Gazette 14495 dated 3rd September, laid down conditions for boiler operator. So for the boiler operator, you have to get a certificate. There are three cases, class 3, class 2, and class 1. So this competent boiler operator has to be available for operating boilers in factories, considering the steam capacity. So class 3, if we consider the class 3 boiler attendant, boiler operator, up to steaming capacity of 2,000 pounds per hour. When the boiler is producing up to 2,000 pounds per hour steam, in class 3 boiler operator can do the work, and with 1 year experience as a foreman or assistant to a certificate of a boiler attendant. Class 2, up to steaming capacity of 6,000, up to steaming capacity of 6,000 pounds per hour, and must have 3 years experience in attending to a boiler. These are in addition to condition for class 2. So in addition to class 3 qualifications, these 1 and 2 are additional qualifications. Then class 1, up to steaming capacity of above 6,000 pounds per hour. So that's class 1, higher grade, must have 6 years experience in attending to boilers. This is in addition to conditions stated for class 2. In addition to class 2 experience, additionally, they have 6 years experience in attending to a boiler. Now we will see boiler explosion causes. These are the conditions for which causes boiler explosion. Inoperative safety valve. Safety valve is not functioning properly. Low water in the boiler. So there's a limit for the water in the boiler. Scale deposits too high. When the scales or various impediments in the water can be deposited. So these scale deposits that in boiler repairs, we have to remove these scale deposits. If the scale deposits are too high, then it can cause a boiler explosion. Oil in the boiler water. Corroded or thinner part of the plate. The plate can be corroded during the operation. Then corroded and thinner part of plate can cause explosive. Then cracks in the boiler. Then finally, improper repairs. When we do the repair, we have to do it correctly. Otherwise, when we do not carry out proper repairs, it can cause. Safety valve should be adjusted to plus 10% of the marked pressure. These are the important things you have to remember about boiler explosion. Boiler operators note. Boiler operator tests safety valve monthly for its performance. So that his duty, boiler operator's duty, to carry out all these activities. Blow down frequently to clean interior of the boiler. See adequate lights are there at switchboards, panel boards, water gauge, pressure gauge, temperature meters, and all other important places. Number 4, do not depend on fully automatic devices. They may fail. So it says be very careful about these fully automatic devices. Don't depend on that one. Test all automatic devices periodically. Clean the boiler and keep it neat. Check the flame and flue gases at the chimney. Light brown color should be appeared in the chimney. Check temperature, chimney. Check the feed water levels, feed water condition. Clean filters periodically. When switching off the boiler, water should be at its maximum level. Essential features of the good boiler. What are the essential features? The boiler should be light in weight, compact, and should use less space. Number 2, it should allow easy, cheap, and quick maintenance. Number 3, it should be capable of starting very quickly. Number 4, it should be capable of accommodating large variation of loads. These are the good features. In a boiler, the velocity of water and flue gas should be minimized after they overcome heavy frictional losses. All the joints and fittings of a boiler should be easily accessible. Water scaling and soot should not collect in and on its tubes. So scaling should be removed from time to time. Safe means of access and safe place of employment. Safe means of access to the place of work should be provided and maintained. So then the people who are working in the factory, there should be a safe means of access to the place of work. If a person is liable to fall from a height more than 6 feet, means should be provided to ensure his safety, such as by the provision of safety belts, nets, etc. So if people are working more than 6 feet high from the ground level, so there should be safety belts, nets to be provided, especially in construction sites. You can see in construction site, they have fixed nets and various things to prevent people falling down. No person should be permitted to enter confined places unless steps are taken to remove any fumes, toxic or irrespirable gases. That you have to be very careful when you do underground work, mines, etc. Persons entering such spaces should wear breathing apparatus and to be provided with a lifeline. Those are the things you have to be consider when we employ people underground work. Now we will see the principles of accident prevention. Definition of an accident. You can see any unplanned event that resulted in injury, ill health to people, or damage or loss to property, plant, material, or the environment, or a loss of business opportunity. So this is the definition of an accident. It's very clear, you can understand. Then if we consider the accident statistical studies from time to time, so when 300 number non-injury situations can cause later in a minor accident. Then 29 minor accidents can lead to have one major accident. This is, of course, this is a statistical study, so this can vary from time to time. So this is some past statistical record. These figures have been taken on about 300 non-injury situations after 29 minor accident prevention, then one major incident may occur. Principles of accident prevention. So these three reasons: legal reasons, humanitarian reasons, economic reasons. I will explain this now. Principles of accident prevention, humanitarian reasons. Nobody who goes to work wants to have an accident. That we all know. As individual managers, we don't want people to suffer ill health or injury on our sides. Economic reasons. Cost to the individual, the company, and the country. Insurance costs. So these are the economic reasons in the principles in accident prevention. Damaged product and material, plant and building, tools and equipment. These are the economic reasons. Legal costs. So these are when accident happens, all these costs have to be bear. Production delays, that we have to face production delays if there is an accident in a factory. Continue. Then next slide. Economic reasons. Overtime working. Investigation time. Supervisor's time diverted. Oh, accident. Clerical effort to recording all these details. Loss of expertise, experience. Component of an accident. Pre-accident. The accident the results of the accident. Then this diagram shows how this accident will occur. This causes of accidents is due to unsafe work conditions, then unsafe acts of people. These are the reasons for an accident happen. Unsafe work conditions in the factory premises and the unsafe acts of people, the people using machinery and other equipment in a factory. Unsafe acts, again, is defined like this: working without authority, failure to warn others of a danger. It's also an important thing. These unsafe acts. Leaving equipment in a dangerous condition. Misusing equipment, wrong speeds, and other activities in a factory. Disconnecting safety devices such as guards. Using non-defective equipment. Using equipment to the wrong way or for wrong tasks. These are the unsafe acts normally people will carry out. Failure to use or wear personal protective equipment. That is very important. In a factory, you can see, for example, for welding, we can see most of the people, they are not using protective shields and protective glasses to protect eye. So failure to use and wear personal protective equipment. Bad loading of vehicles. Failure to lift loads correctly, mechanically or physically. Being in an unauthorized place. Unauthorized servicing and maintaining of moving equipment. Horseplay. This is very important in factory premises. The young people, especially, they crack jokes with other people, working staff, and creating unnecessary situations. So may create accidents. Smoking in areas where it is prohibited. So this is very important. There are special areas allocated in factories outside the premises for smoking, but yet the people smoke within the factory premises. So smoking in areas where it is prohibited. It's an unsafe act. Drinking alcohol or taking non-prescribed drugs. This is also very common in certain factories. So we have to be very careful about these things. Inadequate or missing guards to machines. As I explained in the earlier section 17 covers fixing of guards for prime movers, transmission machinery, and other dangerous parts. So inadequate or missing guards. In most factories, we can see the owner or the employer, they are not very keen about this fixing of guards to machinery. There were cases where the Labor Department prosecuted those factories in recent years. It is inadequate or missing guards to machines. Excessive heat or cold, it's also very important. Excessive heat and cold is unsafe condition. Defective tools, that's also very important. All tools must be in very good condition, not defective. Fire hazards. Fire, I will explain in later, the fire safety. Ineffective housekeeping. Housekeeping, arranging material in the workplace. There is material handling in a factory is very important. Keeping steel rods, pipes, and cement and sanitary equipment. So we have to be very careful. There are certain cases where ineffective housekeeping of these material to be used. Hazardous atmospheres. Excessive noise levels. Noise levels also very important in a factory. There are certain figures, I am not reading the figures, decibels. There are acceptable noise levels in a factory that you can refer any handbook, it is given. Exposure to radiation, it's also a very important factor. Inadequate illumination or ventilation. Illumination and ventilation should be very important in a factory. So if we do not provide proper illumination or ventilation, it can cause accident. What can we do to prevent accidents? Principles of accident prevention. Risk assessment we have to do. Identify the hazards. Identify those who may be affected. Identify the risks. Eliminate risks or substitute. Control the risk. Record and review. These are the steps to be first steps. Identify the hazards, then identify those who may be affected, identify the risks, eliminate risks or substitute, control the risks, record and review. An essential second step, method statement. All operations requiring method statement must have them. All method statements must be approved. The way of preventing accident procedures. Method statements must be understood by the personnel undertaking the work. Method statement must be followed. These steps have to be followed for accident prevention. Random checks made to ensure compliance. So once method statements are established, so there should be some sort of random checks to make sure it complies with the things given in the statement. Safety inspections have to be done. What is the purpose of an inspection and who could do it? Purpose. Ensure compliance with the law. So we have to be comply with the factories ordinance law. The law is given in the factories ordinance. Ensure all are working safely within safe place of work. That is the purpose of safety inspection. Hazard spotting. Who could do it? The safety inspections. Senior management has to do it. Safety inspections. Contractors management or safety advisors. In certain organizations, they have employed safety advisors to give advice. Enforcing authorities. There are some enforcing authorities for safety inspections, external consultants, insurers, plant inspectors, etc. Then the safety inspections, you as engineers in charge of work, so you have to be very careful and you have to do these safety inspections and carry out all these safety procedures to protect your people when they are engaging in work. Accident prevention is given in the diagram. So information, how we get, how we have to prevent these things. Then instructions, supervision and training. Supervision, training and instruction, depending on the information what you are getting, has to be implemented. Supervision, especially the training of people for workers in working at their machinery and equipment. Then the supervision is very important and give the instructions accordingly. And then we will come to the notification of accidents. There are certain procedures to be carried out for notification of accidents. When any accident occurs in a factory, which causes loss of life to person employed. Number 2, disables any such person for more than 3 days from earning full wages. So if a worker faced with an accident and disables that person for more than, he is not in a position to report for work more than 3 days, so this accident notification should be done. Makes any such person unconscious due to heat, exhaustion, electric shock, or inhalation of irrespirable gases or fumes. Written notice of these accidents should be sent forthwith to the district factory inspecting engineer. So in the labor department, there's a section called factories division. I will explain it at the end of the lecture. So they have chief factory inspecting engineer and district factory engineers to cover various districts, then the normal factory engineers. So all these accidents should be reported to the factory inspecting engineers according to the notification of occupational diseases. Every registered medical practitioner attending on a patient whom he believes to be suffering from a notifiable industrial disease. If a person is suffering from industrial diseases caused from so should give written notice to the chief factory inspecting engineer. Chief factory inspecting engineer. So notification of occupational diseases has to be done by the factory owners. Inquest into death. Inquiries of sudden deaths, holding inquiries into deaths resulting from factory accident or notifiable industrial diseases should ensure that factory inspecting engineer is present at the inquiry to watch the proceedings. If a fatal accident occurs in a factory, so when the the inquirer of sudden deaths will come to the site. So in that particular investigation incident, the factory inspecting engineer should be present. That is given in the regulations of the factory, under the factory's ordinance. When a fatal accident occurs in a factory, no person should touch or disturb any machinery or article involved in the accident without the permission of the factory inspecting engineer. So when fatal accident occurs in a factory, so you can't remove the machinery components and other equipment in connection with that fatal accident. So that is prohibited. Because the inquirer of sudden death has to investigate all these activities. Accident reporting. Prevention, investigation, trends, costs, research, enforcement, future legislation. So accident reporting is very important for prevention of such things which may occur in future, then for investigation purposes, then trends of this accidents, so can study the how it happens and various activities, then cost of this accident, cost for the accident, research. So by collecting all these data, they can do some research activity, how to prevent occurring such accidents, and enforcement, to carry out the law with regard to the given by the factory's ordinance. Then if you want to create some legislation, some regulation coming out of the result of this accident, so you can do the future legislation. So accident reporting is very essential when you consider all these activities. And review of policies and procedures. So then you can change the policies or what are the procedures you have already undertaken. So these things can be developed. Accident book. Every accident involving personal injury to an employee must be entered in an accident book by either the employee, someone acting on behalf of the employee. The accident book must be kept accessible and its location known to all employees. So in factories, this accident book is very important. So when accident occurs, so the employee has to make by either employee or someone acting on behalf of the employee. So this book has to be kept in the factory to record these activities, and must be accessible and its location known to all employees. Okay, now we have discussed a lot of things about the accidents. Now we will go to the fire safety. Fire is the result of combination in suitable proportions of a fuel, oxygen, and an initial source of heat. So fire is the result of a combination in suitable proportions of a fuel, oxygen, and initial source of heat. These three items, fuel, oxygen, and initial source of heat. So fire, in combination of these things, fire can occur. This combination is a chemical reaction in which a heated substance combines with oxygen to produce heat light, smoke, and toxic gases. The reaction involves both heat consumption and heat production with a net production of heat. Products of combustions. The application of heat to solids and liquids produces vapors at their surfaces, which ultimately mix with air to cause fire. During combustion, in addition to the heat, new molecules are also formed. These are called the products of combustion. Complete combustion can occur in a very hot, well-ventilated fire. In this situation, carbon dioxide and steam are formed from the oxidation of carbon and hydrogen, respectively. Oxides of various other elements such as sulfur, nitrogen are also formed. Toxic substances can also be produced in some fires. Hydrogen cyanide can be formed from burning of wool and silks. So you have to be very careful. Acetic acid from timber and paper, and carbon monoxide from incomplete combustion of carbonaceous material. Ignition sources. Heat is one of the three factors necessary for combination. As I mentioned earlier, it is readily available in industry from various ignition sources such as, so these are the ignition sources which from a factory. One, electrical apparatus and wiring. Sources of static electricity. Machinery, grinding, welding, and cutting processes. Heating and cooking processes. Matches and lighted cigarettes. So these are common things, as you all know. Electrical apparatus and wiring, sources of static electricity, machinery, grinding, welding, and cutting processes, heating and cooking processes, matches, and lighted cigarettes. So, what are the control measures for fire protection? We will discuss that. Fire protection has to be planned at the design stage of buildings, taking into consideration the risks involved in the manufacturing process. So at the very beginning, when you are designing of a particular building for a particular production item or a factory, this you have to be very careful about this design of the building. So the fire control measures has to be provided. High risk areas should be protected with fire resistant walls. In certain places, these fire resistant walls have to be provided to prevent the rapid spread of fire. In case of any fire, so it can spread to other places. So fire resistant doors is a very important factor when we design factories, and should also be provided for these areas to isolate them in case of major fires. There is also, you have to be very careful in design. Where appropriate inbuilt systems for detecting, controlling, and extinguishing fires could be provided. Fixed automatic devices are available to extinguish fires. These operate automatically in case of fire and sprinkle water or other extinguishing agents. So these are the control measures you have to take in designing of a building for a factory. Safe escape routes should be provided, and these should be maintained free of obstruction. As you can see, in certain places, the doors are indicated as safe exit routes, but in some places, they stack a lot of items, unnecessary garbage and all that, close to these doors. So safe escape routes should be provided, and these should be maintained free of obstruction. That is very important. Doors should open outwards to enable easy exit in case of fire. So when the people in a case of fire, when they come to the fire exiting door, it should be open outside, not inside. If we design the door to be open inside, then people will gather and nobody can't open the door. There should be good access routes around the building to assist the fire brigade. So there should be clear-cut path surrounding the building to access fire brigade engines and hydrants and other facilities for firefighting should be provided. It is desirable to install fire alarm systems in factories. I think almost all factories now they have installed fire alarms, and all workers should be trained in evacuation procedures by conducting fire drills. So normally in certain organizations, they conduct fire drills once a month. They inform them and where to go and where to stay, how to be safe in fire. Preventive measures should be considered after thorough study of the process materials and likely ignition sources. So preventive measures should be taken after complete study of the process of materials, especially considering the ignition sources. This involves the identification of specific hazard areas, selection and provision of appropriated first aid firefighting equipment, and the training of workers employed in these areas to use the equipment correctly. Actually, this training of employees in the factory is very, very important when we consider these things, because in most organizations, they are not taking any interest to train people about these activities. So this is very important. It is also important to establish good housekeeping practices, such as proper disposal of waste. The waste collected during the work. So this correct proper disposal of waste is very important. A regular cleaning of the machinery, floors and walls of the proper storage of materials. This material handling takes a very important part. Regular inspection to ensure that safety procedures are adhered. Then we will come to the electrical safety in electricity. Electricity is inherently dangerous and like unguarded machinery, fire, steam, etc., has to be treated with respect. Then we will see causes of electrical accidents. The causes of electrical accidents may broadly be classified under 3 headings. Number 1, defective design or construction of apparatus. 2, failure of apparatus due to inefficient maintenance. 3, misuse or operation of sound apparatus due to failure of personnel or management or misapplication. So these three things can be considered. That electrical accidents may broadly be classified under this. An analysis research study indicates the analysis of the causes of electrical accidents give following figures. So by doing research work in various activities, defects in design or material, 16% of the causes of the electrical accidents under the defects in design or material. Sound apparatus ill-maintained, 9% of electrical accident. Unknown causes, 5. Taking necessary risks or failing to utilize means provide for safety. So 70% is the highest figure. So that gives unnecessary risks that we are taking during our operation in factories, or failing to utilize the means provide for safety. So without wearing safety equipment and without following safety procedures, so majority, the 70% of the electrical accidents due to this figure. For example, personal failure, accidental slipping of a screwdriver can create flash. So the electrician who is handling this, when sudden slipping of a screwdriver from his hand, it can touch to a electrical wiring and causes explosion or fire, whatever it is. Management too can contribute to these errors by wrong selection or application of apparatus, failure to provide safe conditions for maintenance, poor selection of staff, overloading the system, lack of supervision, lack of proper training equipment. So we have to be very careful about these things, and we have to take these are maybe the reason for electrical accident. Hazards of electricity. Dangers to be considered in the use of electricity are two types. There are two types. One, personal injury, and then damage to property. These two things are considered as the hazard dangers from the hazards. Personal injury, we will see one by one. Personal injuries may be caused by electric shock, electric burn, or electric arc eye. Electric shock. Electric shock can be falls from roofs, cuts, or dropping of tools, as I informed you earlier. Injury from damage to nerve issue, death from fibrillation of the heart, death due to asphyxiation, that lack of air, breathing air, physical injury from violent muscular contraction. Electric burns. Generally speaking, an electric burn penetrates deeply and may take a long time healing through the appearance of superficial damage may be slight. Direct current burns tend to be more acute than alternating current burns, AC burns, due to the fact that the DC arc is more persistent than the alternating arc, which latter, the AC arc, tends to extinguish more easily at the moment when current passes through 0 volts. Burns are invariably associated with physical shock, and great care is necessary in their treatment. So these electric burns. arc eye. This is called by ultraviolet rays from an electric arc, for instance, in arc welding, reaching unprotected eyes. So we have to wear protected glasses when do arc welding, or protective shield doing welding. The condition is very painful, causing temporary loss of sight. In certain cases, the victim feels as if there are sand particles in his eye. So when welding work, these safety precautions have to be taken. The only way in which the arc eye can be prevented is to wear eye protection of the correct type and to do welding in screen-off areas. So in welding booths, you can see screened booths are provided in factories. Electrical safety. So far, we have been considering the dangers associated with the use of electricity. There are a few principles which, if followed, will make electricity is a good servant. Otherwise, it's a bad master. The principles used in making electrical conductors safe. 1. To guard them electrically and mechanically. So conductors should be guarded by providing materials to protect from the current. To make them inaccessible. 3. To install, operate, and maintain them in a proper manner. To make them dead. To energize them at low voltage. I will explain one by one. Guard them electrically and mechanically. Electrical guarding is achieved by covering the conductor with an insulator such as rubber, plastic, oil impregnated paper, line glass, porcelain, etc. Mechanical guarding of the insulated conductor is done in various ways, and can be in the form of soft metal tubes extruded over the insulated conductor, or fixed tubes through which the insulated wire were drawn. The insulated wire is drawn through a pipe or something like that, steel or steel armored wires or tapes. To make them inaccessible, bare conductors may be fixed on porcelain or other insulators, which in turn can be supported above. To install, operate, and maintain in proper manner, the circuits and apparatus must be designed, erected, and maintained by qualified and competent persons in conformity with the best current practices, and that the operators are trained in their work. So the training of operator is very important thing in this electrical safety. To make them dead, this means it is done by using circuit breakers or isolating switches. Conductors may also be made dead automatically on the occasion of a fault by means of fuses and or circuit breakers. When we fix a circuit breaker, when something goes wrong, it is automatically switched off. To energize at low voltage. If the voltage is reduced, then current also get reduced. So in the case of portable electric equipment, the work in confined places is better to use low voltage. Now we have completed electrical safety and fire safety. Now we will come to the very important section, safety in construction industry. The civil engineers, we have to be very careful when implementing all these safety methods as laid out. Construction sites can be divided into two categories: building, houses, hotel, schools, and factories will come into the category 1. Then the other one, apart from these things, civil engineering sites, roads, dams, bridges, power station, etc. There are these two categories. It is observed that occur more accidents in construction sites when compared to factories due to following reasons. What are the reasons? Frequent change of work sites. So in civil engineering construction sites, you can see sites are changed from place to place. Frequent change from one place to another place. Lack of disciplinary control, lack of planning. So disciplinary control is very poor in certain construction sites and lack of planning. Subcontracting of work. This is very important because all the contractors, for most of their activities, they hire subcontractors for civil work. They do not give much attention to safety rules. The subcontractors, they are not worried about these safety rules inside. So some or other, they want to finish the work as early as possible and take the money and go out. So subcontracting people are not worried about these safety regulations. Then lack of allocating funds for safety equipment in construction sites. This in certain cases, the employers, they are very reluctant to allocate funds for safety equipment, buying equipment, hiring equipment, and all these things because they move from one place to another place in most cases. Engage unskilled workers for low wages. That is also an important factor for in construction safety. So, at the shortage of skilled workers for various categories, so they tend to hire unskilled workers for low wages. Lack of proper coordination among different categories of groups. As for example, bar builders, mason. In this construction size, all these categories are working. Different kinds of trades, masons, carpenters, bar builders, electricians, etc. Different groups of people. So lack of coordination, lack of understanding of safety principles, and lack of management issues. This can be one reason for accident. To face different weather conditions. So in construction site, rain and sunshine. This weather condition changes, so the workers have to work in these different weather. This can be a reason for construction accident. Safety procedures to be implemented. To prepare a comprehensive work plan at the beginning of work with the help of architects, design engineers, site engineers, technical officers, site supervisors, etc. So they are the people who engage in construction sites. So at the beginning, that before starting the working operations in these sites, so there should be a comprehensive, well-organized plan after discussing with these people, architects, engineers, and technical site officers, even the drivers working in the site. So have a proper plan, comprehensive plan. Safety precautions to prevent collapsing of walls during excavation of soil. When they do underground work, when they excavate soil, so underground work to provide sufficient air in deep excavation, to provide sufficient air for breathing purpose, to prevent, and you have to be very careful about the toxic gases creating in the underground. Then safety precautions should be introduced in scaffolding work in high-rise buildings. So in the earlier I have mentioned that when people are working above 6 feet height from the ground level, so you have to be provided with bells and safety nets and all that when they construct scaffolding work, when they assemble scaffolding. So safety precautions should be introduced. To maintain hoists, chains and ropes and other lifting equipment regularly. So I explained earlier that these hoist, chains and ropes have to be checked by a competent person from time to time. So that is very important in construction site. Collapsing of cranes or ropes can be occurred. So otherwise, there should be accidents. There can be accident. Inspection of such items should be done periodically. Attention should be given for safety precaution in roof construction. Proper methods should be adopted in material handling and storage of material, such as steel, pipes, cement, sanitary equipment. So in construction sites, handling of material is very important. So we have to use proper methods for material handling. Laying electrical cables, especially in temporary sheds in work, because in construction sites, most of these places, they have temporary sheds. So they work for some time, 1 month or 2 months, then remove that shed and shifting to another place. So in these cases, when connecting electric cables to provide electricity for lighting, air condition, and various things, so laying cables is very important thing and it should be done very carefully. Handling of explosive materials, especially in road construction sites, sometimes they use explosive materials, and for underground tunnel construction sites. So explosive materials has to be keep in safe places. There are certain procedures to keep this material. So handling of explosive material is an important thing in construction site. Special attention should be given to fire safety. I have already explained the fire safety. So special attention we have to give for fire safety. Now we have come all these safety activities. Now we will come to the other section of the factories ordinance, health and welfare. Cleanliness. Every factory or working site, construction site should be kept clean and free from effluvia. Workspace. Every person working in a factory should be allowed at least 400 cubic feet of free space according to the regulations laid down under the factories ordinance. So every person must have at least 400 cubic feet of free space. In calculating the free space, no space above 14 feet from the floor should be taken into account. So we have to take the area of the working place, length and breadth, then multiplied by the height. For calculating the height, you have to take the maximum 14 feet. So when we calculate the volume of that particular area, the length and breadth of the premises, then height you have to take 14. So multiply all these things, then you get the volume divided by the number of people working in the place. So that the volume divided by the number of people. So it should be at least 400 cubic feet for one person. That is the law. Sanitary conveniences. Sanitary convenience should be provided and maintained in all factories as follows. For up to 100 persons, according to the regulations of the factories ordinance, one for every 25 persons. One sanitary facilities, one toilet for 25 people, up to 100 people. So to 100, so divided by 25, 4 toilets should be available. From 100 to 500 persons, more than 100, less than 500, one for every 40 persons. So 100 to 500, the difference is 400. 400, so 40 people, 10 sanitary conveniences should be provided, 10 numbers. Over 500 persons, one for every 60 persons. So these things come under the factories ordinance regulation. Eight facilities should be provided for male and female, as you all know. Wholesome drinking water should be provided to workers except when water is delivered from an upward jet, cups or drinking. Vessels should be provided at each point of supply along with the facilities for rinsing them. For drinking water, facilities should be provided. Adequate and suitable accommodation should be provided for clothing, not worn during working hours. So to change the clothes for factory working. So suitable accommodation should be provided. Female workers should be provided with facilities for resting to enable them to rest during the course of their employment. Actually, for male workers also, facilities should be provided for resting. First aid. Every factory should have a first aid box or cupboard, and it should the contents as specified in regulations. In factory, the regulations issued by the Department of Labor, there are certain essential items to be available. So these things you can get it from the factory inspecting engineer, or you can refer to the Gazette notifications, get the detailed list. What are the contents to be included in the say first aid box? Train first aiders on every work shift. So that is very important in a factory. In most factories, normally they do not have these first aiders in work shifts. So according to the law, train staff, at least one person who is competent in providing providing first aid to people has to be available according to the law. It is important to ensure that a sufficient number of workers are trained in first aid. Meal rooms. Meal rooms which could accommodate at least 30%, 1/3 of the total workforce at any one time should be provided. So you don't have to provide meal room facilities for all the people at the same time, because the people, they come to take lunch or dinner or breakfast at different times. So at least 1/3, 30% of the total workforce, the space should be available to take their meals during the work. When in any room lead, arsenic or other poisonous substance is used, no person should be permitted to partake of food or drink or remain in such room during intervals allowed for meals and rests. That is also very important. Issue of licenses by local authorities. No local authority should issue a license to a factory unless it is registered under the factory's ordinance. So before issuing a license by the local authorities for various, to start the premises, or the local authorities have to give permission, give approval for the organization or the individual person. So no local authority should issue license without getting the approval of the not registered under the factory's ordinance. There shall be kept in every factory or in such place outside the factory as may be approved by the factory inspecting engineer. The register called a general register. General register is a document available in the factories according to the law. The following details have to be entered in the general register. It is coming under the section 11 of the Factories Ordinance. What are the things? All reports and particulars required by the provisions of the Factories Ordinance to be entered in or attached. Details of accidents and industrial diseases occurring in the factory of which notice is required to be sent to the Labor Department. Those details should be entered in the general register. Young persons employed in the factory, name and the age. Such particulars as may be prescribed as to the washing, whitewashing or color washing, painting or varnishing of the factory. Those particulars should be there in the general register. Now we will come to the end of our lecture now. Factories Division of the Department of Labor will look after enforcement of the Factories Ordinance to ensure, as I mentioned several times, safety, health, and welfare of workers in factories through following activities. Enforcement and implementation of Factories Ordinance, inspection of factories, approval of building plans before starting the factories, attending coroner's court to give expert evidence. That is, I explained it earlier, when there's a fatal accident in the factory, coroner's court, the inquirer into the sudden deaths will come for investigations. So the factory inspecting engineer will attend to it. So attend court to give expert evidence. Investigation complaints, where there are certain complaints from the people about the conditions of the factory, guarding of machinery, and about the health facilities and all that. So investigations are made by the officers of the Factories Division. Investigation of accidents, as I informed earlier. Institute legal actions, so take legal actions. Conduct safety awareness programs to prevent accidents. So they visit factories and conduct seminars, lectures, and various things. Analysis of accidents. Appointment of authorized officers. I mentioned earlier, as you all are engineers, you can get the appointment as an authorized officer when you get experience of this field. Issue of certificates under the Factories Ordinance. Making safety posters, leaflets, short films, and other things. In addition to the above, there are some other important activities carried out by the Factories Division. Advisory services for improvement of work environment in factories. Participation in national committees with regard to occupational health and safety and health. Safety auditing of factories. Preparation of curriculum on safety, health, and welfare for educational organizations such as Construction Industry Development Authority, SIDA, National Apprentice and Industrial Training Authority, NITA, National Institute of Business Management, National Institute of Plantation Management, and there are a lot of other educational organizations. The officers, they engage in seminars and discussions to prepare curriculum for their syllabuses regarding safety, health, and welfare. I mentioned earlier that about the ordinances and amendments, the details. The Factories Ordinance number 45, I have mentioned several times, number 45 of 1942. And these are the amendments from time to time. Factories Amendment Ordinance number 22 of 1946, then Amendment Act number 54 of 1961, then Amendment Law number 12 of 76, again Act number 18 of 1998, 33. So all these things you can get the copies through the Department of Labor website. In addition to above, the following regulations are also ineffective. These are the regulations issued from time to time. Number 1 in 1960, then sanitary conveniences in 1965. All these sanitary convenience details I have explained under this regulation. Then the dangerous occurrences of notification, 65. Washing facilities general, 1965. General standards of lighting regulation, 65. Meal rooms regulation, 65. Factories already steam boiler attendant certificates and other activities, 65. Factories notifiable diseases, 72. Factories protection of ice regulation, 79. Factories first aid regulation, 19. Leaflets on first aid. So that's all for the today's lecture. Any questions and answers? Okay, thank you.